What's up, guys? Coach Mo here with the Moral Performance System podcast, episode 2. Last week, I went into a little bit of how to start training again, strength training. If you've kind of been out of the game for a little bit, or you're a weekend warrior, you kind of or you went out to play softball or something like that for the first time forever, and you realize that your muscles and your joints and everything is not really functioning like they used to before, right? But the key is you want to get back into it, but you want to do it the right way. Do it nice and slow. Don't injure yourself. Okay. Trust me, I know. I went out and played a basketball game not so long ago. Long story short, tweaked my knee. Thank God it wasn't. I didn't tear my ACL, but I did get what's called an ACL. Well, actually, it's a partial tear of the middle fibers of my ACL, which I guess is really like a grade 2 strain, or so I'm told. Don't think it's going to require surgery, thankfully, but nonetheless, it sucks. For you that don't know, I had just started. If you follow my Instagram, just started training for more high rocks, which is essentially a long endurance competition. And I was doing well. I was running a lot, getting at least 8 miles in on my long runs, doing a lot of bodyweight movements. Everything was going good, and then in typical Mo fashion, I jump into an event and try to challenge myself. It's a blessing and a curse. I love to do that. But of course, long story short, non-contact injury. I was kind of doing a jab step and I felt immediately my knee kind of cave in, like a hyperextended, but in a weird, like inward way. So right away I knew, I was like, oh, here we go. But thankfully, no tear, just a little partial tear. I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy. I'm going to go do a little bit of PT for that. And that should be all good. Hopefully, crossing my fingers, wish me luck. But like I said, that comes kind of with the issue of jumping into things too soon. I'm a victim of it myself, so that first episode was really me just trying to give back to you guys as much as possible. Hope you guys enjoyed it. There was a little problem with the video, so there may have been some things where I was trying to explain a workout and kind of doing visuals, and then you guys didn't get the video, so I apologize. I promise I'll come back to that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, on this YouTube channel, whatever it is. Okay. So today I'm going to kind of go into just a little bit about nutrition. And some of the first steps, to get the nutrition back on track. A lot of people, don't realize the importance of nutrition. When I found this out was, a couple years ago now. I always never had a problem with the training. Like I've always been motivated. I've always loved working out. I've always, pushed myself. Been boxing, football, baseball, basketball, a little bit of CrossFit back in the day. And I've kind of done it all. I love to compete. That's kind of what I love to do. I'm 31 years old now, going to be 32 in less than a month. So I had to start training smart. And one thing, when you're young and your metabolism's, on point, and you don't really realize, how much nutrition matters. Right. And you don't realize how much of a difference it can make. So for me, I was at a point where I was just like working my butt off. I was constantly, doing all these high intensity workouts and these runs and lifting weights and boxing, but I just wasn't losing the weight like I wanted to. I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to. So I actually reached out to, I'm sure you guys have heard of him, Joey Swole. Shout out to Joey Swole. He coached me online for only a couple months. In that short term, I saw what a difference nutrition makes when your nutrition's on point and when you're doing things the right way. And I remember when he first gave me my meal plan, I was like, damn, like I don't even eat this much right now. How is this going to help me lose weight? There was a lot of ground beef, a lot of carbs, right? And everyone's told, carbs are the devil, right? But that is not the case whatsoever. I lost so much weight. I lost about 30 pounds, and I was eating more carbs than I ever had before. I was eating just loads of jasmine rice, sweet potatoes, a lot of vegetables, bananas, oatmeal, you name it, I was eating it. And I thought for sure, I was like, man, I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't know if this Joey Swole guy knows what he's talking about. Of course he does, though, right? I ended up dropping a bunch of weight, and I actually wasn't even doing that much cardio. There was a little bit of conditioning scheduled and in my workouts. But I wasn't doing much cardio, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, the heck? How am I feel like, no knock on the workouts, but I felt like the workouts were actually a little bit easier than what I had previously done. I was really essentially just lifting weights and focusing on building muscle. I wasn't even really going and killing myself on these long runs or these high intensity, CrossFit style workouts. And I was dropping weight. And I was like, what the heck? This is awesome. Like I felt like my whole life changed, right? And I was like, Wow, like that's insane. I would love to do that and help people, which, I did. I did a nutrition coaching institute, NCI. I got, certified as a NASM trainer in ASM. And like I said, and I was just like, I want to help people do this as well and kind of see it. And it's, it is hard, when you give like meal plan recommendations, or, give like a macro count recommendation or something like that. And people think like, oh, this is a lot of food, but trust me, um, if you're eating, whole foods, and you're sticking to a meal plan, and you're tracking your calories and your macros, just being aware of what you're putting into your body, you realize that, sometimes maybe eat a little more than you thought, or a lot more calories than you thought, especially like, for me, like salads, right? Everyone wants to eat a salad, right? But then you don't realize like you're putting in that dressing, like ranch dressing, and your salads are probably more calories than some of the burgers that you eat, right? So you start realizing stuff like that. That's why it's really important to track your food and be aware of what you're putting into your body and how much calories you're putting into your body. So kind of going into, for those that are trying to try something different, and getting started on the fitness journey again, this is going to be a little about nutrition, okay? And basically, I'm just going to tell you the steps on, you know, where to start, and how to progress. In the way, I've worked with some of my clients when it comes to nutrition training. So I'm giving away for free too. Not going to hold anything back. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me. Okay. So, first and foremost, uh, you have to, and I feel like it's non-negotiable, you have to be aware of what your currently intake is, your current intake of food is. Um, and a lot of people um, do what's called yo-yo dieting, where they jump from diet to diet, whatever the new nutrition, diet of the year is, right? Whether it's keto, paleo, um, what's it, the caveman? It's keto, yeah, keto, or they call it the caveman diet. Stuff like that, and you want to jump from diet to diet, or intermittent fasting. At the end of the day, what really matters most is, how much calories we eat during a day. And there is ways, where, like keto diet specifically, a lot more proteins and fats. It'll actually, it's very satiating, the protein and the fats. So you'll naturally, eat a little less. If you're doing the intermittent fasting, you have that a smaller time window to eat, so you're eating less calories, and that's how a lot of people see results. But you don't necessarily have to do that, right? I mean, if it works for you, then great. Same thing I say with different types of workouts. People will ask, what's your opinion on CrossFit, or this type of training, that type of training. For me, is whatever gets you in the gym and gets you moving. If you enjoy it, more power to you. So um, first things first is, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. A lot of people don't like doing it. You have to track your food, right? So in order to do that, you're going to want to get a tracking app. One of the most popular ones, obviously, is MyFitnessPal. I've used it. There's a paid subscription with it where you can uh, use the barcode scanner, which for me is a huge help. If you're eating on the go, doing like a protein shake, or especially if you're gonna measure all your condiments like ketchup and mayonnaise or whatever you're gonna put on your food, scan the barcode, and then put in how much grams you ate. So that's a big one, is MyFitnessPal. Me personally, I use one that's called Macro First. You could probably find it in the app store, or you can find it in the app store, because it has a scanner, and it's free. So I personally use Macro First, because it has a barcode scanner, and it's just, there's not a lot. Like I found in the past, MyFitnessPal had like kind of like a lot of ads, or just there was a lot to it. I felt like the app itself, when you're scrolling through, there's a lot of stuff going on. I found Macro First to be very easy to utilize. Let me see. I'm gonna pull up kind of a picture of the logo. Actually, I could put a link in the description as well of Macro First, that leads to it, and you guys could check that out. So, but here's quick. Where is it at? Sorry, guys. Let me find this really fast. Okay, so Macro First. If you're going through it, this like right here, this essentially is, you'll see in the App Store, it'll look like this. Has daily tracking. It's really easy, guys. So I highly recommend that. And you guys will benefit from using that app for sure. So, and like I said, usually it is kind of a pain in the butt. Sorry, I lost the visual for a second. But hopefully you guys still hear me. It is kind of a pain in the butt. Constantly doing that. Let me try to get this fixed for you guys really fast so I get the visual back. 1 second. Okay, cool. We're back. Sorry about that. Okay, so tracking is kind of a pain in the butt, guys. But once you're done that, it's really important to start because you have to know what your body's used to, right? So your body will adapt to basically survive, right? So one of the ways that I learned about this, or way it was described to me, was like, back in the days, cavemen, right? Sometimes they only ate meals like once a day, right? When it's basically when they could find food, right? So it's like, how do they survive? Well, their body adapts to it. So what happens with people a lot is that your body will adapt to, especially if you don't eat a lot of food because you're trying to lose weight, right? Your body will adapt to that, and now um, it'll make it harder for you to lose weight because your body wants to hold on to those little calories that it has because it needs calories, it needs energy to function, right? So a point where you want to get is where your body, your metabolism, is functioning um, at a calorie intake that you're not starving yourself, right? And a way to find, a solid calorie intake is, well, first and foremost, you got to know where you're at now, right? So, first thing I do with clients is I have them start tracking their food for at least 3 days, so I could see, okay, where is your metabolism at? What is your body used to, right? For some people, like let's say it's used to eating, you only eat 1,000 calories a day, right? But you're still not losing weight. Okay, so then you might have to do what's called the reverse diet, right? So first thing you could do, honestly, is you can go online, and just being completely real. Do you could, there's equations and stuff like that, but I know like Mind Pump has like a maps calculator. Um, it's gonna, and that uses pretty much um, answer some questions. It's usually it's gonna be your height, your weight, um, how much, what your day, your day looks like, how much, how you're working out, do you have a desk job, stuff like that. And what it's going to do is going to calculate essentially um, where you should be, right? So that's going to be, I'm trying to find this really fast, and that's going to be where you kind of want to go to, right, to start. So if you're only eating 1,000 calories a day, um, I'll put the link to this inside the description as well. So if you're only eating about 1,000 calories a day and you're not losing weight, and you weigh like, let's say 200 pounds, right? That's probably a good indication that you're going to need to do what's called a reverse diet, right? You're going to have to fix your metabolism first. And a lot of people need that because they diet a lot and don't get the results that they want because so, right? So what you're going to have to actually do is, and don't be scared, is you're going to have to slowly up your calories, right? Like 3 to 10% increments. So if you're eating, 1,000 calories a day, and let's say you go to the MAPS calculator, which I'll show you right now. Is that it right there? No, let me see. Sorry, 1 second. Let me pull it up for you. And you're going to actually slowly work your calories up to what? Shoot. You're going to work your calories up to where essentially you should be, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to go here, right? This is just one way to do it, right? There's equations and stuff. You can use Harris-Benedict formula. But this is the easy one. Just go to mindpumpmedia.com/macronutrient calculator. And this is, again, just an example how you do it. Go down, calculator. You're going to fill these forms out and they'll spit something out to you, right? So first you're going to use pounds, male. Let's say I'll just do like a male that's, 230, weighs 230 pounds, at 6 foot, 30 years old, and ask you like, how much do you work out? None at all, right? Let's say you don't work out at all. You want to lose fat, and it's going to give you numbers right here, right? So your base metabolic rate and your total daily energy expenditure. The bottom number, the total daily energy expenditure, actually takes into account, how active you are. So if you, and that's going to kind of be what you're going to work off of. So let's say you work out a ton, right? Then you'll see the BMR will stay the same, but your total daily energy expenditure will go higher, right? So what you want to do is you want to use that total daily energy expenditure. And again, this is just estimates, but it's good work to go to start, right? And let's say this person was eating, only 1,000 calories a day, and we want to slowly work them up to this number right here, right? Primarily with obviously healthy food. You want to have a lot of protein. One of the uh, one kind of rule of thumb is however much you want to weigh, that's kind of how much grams of protein you want it to eat. But the first thing you'll do is you're going to actually up the calories till you get to about that number right there. Don't be scared. Obviously, don't do it quick, like I said, from 3 to 10% increments, and just kind of up until you get there. And you're going to essentially let your body kind of adapt to that. And once you're there and you're not gaining weight anymore, and don't fat loss, weight loss, it's not, just a steep downhill thing, right? It's a little up, down, 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 right? It's like little, peaks and valleys, right? But it's just a slow, steady climb down. That's a healthy way to do it, right? So, and the reason why you want to get those calories back up is because if you're eating only 1,000 calories a day and you want to lose weight, now your body is used to that 1,000 calories. So now to lose weight, you have to go under 1,000. It's going to get to a point where you just can't function. Your body, you need to eat, right? So you kind of have to trick your body into functioning at that 2658 calories a day, right? And then once you get there and you're no longer, gaining weight, which you may put on a few pounds, like I said, and it's normal. Once you're no longer gaining weight at that point, and then you start cutting and you're going to boom. By then you'll be used to tracking, you'll be used to eating healthy food, and you will see the results, right? So the first thing you have to do, a lot of people, is fix your metabolism, right? That's kind of a good starting point, people. If you want to know how much calories to be eating, they'll go to that calculator, and like I said, I'll put the link to it inside this video notes. And use that calculator, and that'll kind of tell you where you're at, right? So the first thing you gotta do, step one, find your total daily energy expenditure, and there's calculators online and do that. Okay, that's not the only one. Just I'm sure you can even nowadays use AI and type in your information and what is my total daily energy expenditure, and it'll probably pop up, and you kind of want to slowly work to that. Okay, so whether it's even if it's more than you're currently eating. Okay, so once you have that, and you're at a point where you're eating that total daily energy expenditure. So for me, it's usually about like 3,000 calories. But essentially, you want to start cutting weight. You're gonna cut calories from there, right? And like I said, typically 3 to 10% increments, depending on how aggressive you want to be. So for me, my total daily energy expenditure is just over 3,000 calories right now, and I'm kind of going through a little bit of a cut. So I'm at 2,700 calories. That's how much I'm eating right now to lose weight at a nice steady pace. And I feel good, but just remember that eventually it will catch up to you, and your body, being the smart thing that it is, it will adapt. So if you keep cutting slowly, every couple weeks, and you get to a point where, like for me, let's say I get down to 2,000 calories, right? I'm like, oh crap, I'm at 2,000 calories. I'm starving. I'm not really losing weight now. I'm kind of plateauing. Well, then that's an indication that you're set to do possibly another reverse diet. Go back to the calculator, figure out now it's your current weight, right? By then you should be lower in weight, and then you just kind of do it again and work your way up slowly, and then start cutting again, right? So it's seasons, right? And you'll see that once you start losing the weight and tracking food consistently. And I know tracking sucks, but it is a prerequisite for everybody, honestly. Like once you track, you become more aware of what portion size sizes should be. After you go through a cut, it's good to kind of, what they call intuitive eating, not be so stressed out about the calories. About the tracking of the food. It's kind of a pain in the butt always having your app out and stuff. It is what it is. But once you get to that point, you want to do what's called intuitive eating. And that's fine, right? Because now you're kind of more aware of how much 6 ounces of ground turkey looks, right? Because you've been tracking it for so long, and hopefully you're working with someone that's giving you like a meal plan recommendation. So that's kind of how it works. Okay, so intuitive eating essentially is using one way to do it is using your hand as portion size, right? So for me personally, I've used what's called a fist palm method. And that is, a palm full of protein, a fist full of carbs, and a fist full of veggies. And if you want some fats, use a a thumb size of fats, right? So you have, proteins like ground turkey, ground beef, chicken, eggs, whatever it may be, whatever your protein choice for that meal is. So it's pork chops, whatever it may be, right? You want to use about a palm full of that. Okay. Now, your carb, whether it's like me, I love jasmine rice or even brown rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, whatever that carb is for that meal, you want to use your fist, and you're going to have about this much, right? Whatever your fist is. Some people's fist may be bigger, some may be smaller. Okay. And then the same thing with your veggie, right? The broccoli, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, whatever it is you want to choose for your veggie for that meal, a palm fistful of veggies. Okay. And then if you want to have a fat like avocado or butter, you want to use about a thumb size of that. Okay. And that's kind of a general rule of thumb, no pun intended, about how to portions control and how to size out your meals. And if you're hungry, eat, as long as you're controlling the portion sizes. What it will do actually is make sure you get a lot of adequate protein in. And you'll see that you're just not going to be as hungry. So that's like a little tip to intuitively eat. Another tip too is, if you're eating your meals, eat your protein first, because like I said, protein is satiating and you'll be less hungry, so you won't overdo the carbs and the fats and stuff like that. That's more so if you're like going to a restaurant or something like that. Shout out to Mind Pump. I learned that from Mind Pump. That's a good little trick and a good little hack to make sure that you're not overeating or overindulging, right? Another one too is like, if you're gonna go out to eat, say you're going to a party or something like that, they're gonna have food and you're gonna be hungry, right? Take a scoop of protein or 2 scoops of protein before you go. Drink it. You'll lose your appetite, kind of. It'll be satiating. You'll feel a little more full. So when you go there, you're less likely to eat, to choke, and eat all the foods that they have there, right? So that's something I started doing, and actually, it worked. Before I was going to like a big family party or something like that, I kind of just drink 2 scoops of protein, and I got there, I just wasn't as hungry. So I wasn't overindulging like I do a lot at family parties, because it's really hard not to. So I know a lot of people are huge on like the macros and stuff like that. That's in my opinion, that is, it's good. Obviously it works. It's very advanced, right? My suggestion is that you're just starting, use that calculator. Tell yourself, how much calories you should be eating. Whatever you want to weigh, right? Essentially, you want to get that much amount of protein in. So that many grams. So like, let's say I'm 220, I want to weigh 200. I'll eat 200 grams of protein, right? And then, you could weigh out your food and go from there. Or, like I said, if you just want to, focus on learning how to make healthier choices and, just kind of get used to eating healthier in general, and you're not really ready for a cut or to track and stuff like that, you could just pick, have a list of, proteins, a list of carbs, a list of veggies, and a list of fats. And you could use like the method I showed you, the fist palm method, to intuitively eat and just start there. Right. Obviously there's a lot of other factors that go into weight loss. You have to, your daily, like I said, the daily, energy that you're burning. And there's things called like the NEAT and the EAT, right? That's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Basically it's, just how much you're eating. I'm sorry, how much your body, uh, burns naturally, right? Just by living life. And then there's your exercise activity thermogenesis, which is, how much your body burns, while you're actually, working out. And I will show you this really fast, because I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be very surprised when you kind of see just how little workouts actually typically will affect your total daily energy expenditure. So here, really fast, we're gonna go through it, guys. This will be the end of this podcast really fast. So this right here is your components of your total daily energy expenditure, right? So your BMR is what I showed you earlier when I showed you the calculator, and it gave you your base metabolic rate. That's how much you will burn naturally, your body, just to function and to live. Your TEF, that's your thermogenesis effect of food. That's the thermal effect of food. Sorry. And basically that's how much your body actually has to work to digest the food that you're eating, right? So your thermic effect of food is, basically your body working to digest what you put into it. Your NEAT on the top is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That is going to be basically how much calories you burn during the day, just simply living life, whether it's walking from your car to the store, walking up steps, walking from your desk to the main office, or walking around your house, doing chores around your house, whatever that may be. That's the good way to track that is by how much steps you take during a day. Which you want to take typically about 10 to 12,000 steps. Then your EAT, that's your exercise activity thermogenesis. Now, this probably isn't, 100% accurate for everyone, but generally speaking, that EAT, your exercise activity thermogenesis, is how much you burn from working out. And I'm sure right now, a lot of you looking at this and you're like, wow, like that is a lot less than I thought. How little, your workouts could actually play in your weight loss journey. So, keep this in mind, guys. It's not just about killing yourself in the gym, right? It's about tracking food. It's about moving throughout the day. A lot of people will actually probably burn more calories like on a Saturday when they're out running chores, Costco or the mall, whatever it is. They'll probably burn more calories that day than when, they're Monday when they work out in the morning and they sit at the desk all day and then don't do anything when they get home. So just keep that in mind. Get those steps in. That was kind of a quick breakdown, guys, of basic nutrition tracking, how to know how much calorie you should have, and again, just going through the components of basically how your body does burn calories. So if you have any questions, guys, as always, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you guys for watching and listening. I hope to continue to grow this podcast. I'm going to start having guests on here. I'm actually more than likely to have my first guest next week. And I'm looking forward to that. And I will let you guys know who that's going to be. And then I'm going to continue to grow, continue to grind, guys. If you guys need any help or advice or some guidance, with the things that I'm teaching you on this podcast, please feel free to reach out on Instagram at MPS_Mo, MPS_MOE, or at Moral Performance Systems on Instagram. Or you come on this YouTube channel, or you could email me at coachmo@moralperformancesystems.com. So that's it for today's podcast, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. If you guys have anything specific that you want to hear or have any questions, I'm probably going to actually start a weekly live Facebook group chat. So for guys that join my Facebook group, I'll put more information about that, and then you guys could reach me there as well. Okay. Again, reach out if you feel like you need any help, and I'll be more than happy to help you guys. Thank you, guys.